What I talked about today were the trends that are happening with online advertising and marketing and media today. And my job, if you will, was to separate the hype from the reality. We've all heard of social networks. We're all clamoring to figure out online video, and many of us have, bounded onto virtual worlds like Second Life, and some of us have been burned. So I'm trying to figure out what's real and what are the real numbers. And that includes looking at what % of internet users in a given country are actually participating in these activities. And sometimes the numbers are shockingly low, and sometimes they're shockingly high, depending on your perspective. And similarly, what % of companies are engaging in these activities? Some say they're planning to use social networks or they're planning to do online video, but how many are actually doing it? And that's really what we talked about. The biggest challenge, I think, facing the online marketing and media world today, beyond the economic conditions that we're looking at, that's kind of happening on its own course, and we need to look at that, but we cannot get absorbed by it, is the new mode of communicating with consumers, which is all about joining the conversation. We now have to create advertising that is so compelling, so entertaining or informative, if you will, and relevant to the audience that's right there sitting in front of the PC or on the TV, that they will no longer regard it so much as advertising, but as part of the content. And that raises the bar for marketers, but also for advertising agencies to create this content that, again, is not perceived as advertising. There is a lot of hand-wringing right now about to what extent will the traditional media world be affected by the current economic conditions, and then secondarily, or for some people, most importantly, how will online media be affected? There is no doubt that traditional media, television, radio, and print will be ratcheted down. But then the question is begged, what about online? Online, we think at eMarketer, will continue to grow, and not just grow, but at double-digit rates. Will it be as high as it would have been without the economic climate? Absolutely not. But instead of a 18 or 20% growth rate, we might see a 14 or 17% growth rate. That's still pretty decent, and I would rather have that than go down 2 or 3 percentage points like we see newspapers or radio. It's conferences like this where people really wrestle with the issues. And what I have seen here today is fantastic at the AOP, because people are calling it like it is. They're pulling no punches. They're saying some incendiary things, but that's good because we're having a real conversation. And it's kind of mirroring what's happening out there in the marketing world, where advertisers, in some cases for the first times, are having real conversations with their consumers that allow for negative feedback to come back from the consumer, which can be used as a form of market research. And I see similarly what we see here, kind of the mirror image of that, is that we are allowing negative things to come up, frustrations, concerns, challenges. But every challenge is an opportunity, so we, through this learning, can learn how to do this online thing better. If there's kind of one general principle that marketers and indeed media folks need to embrace, is this idea of experimentation. Things are changing so rapidly out there. The data is overwhelming, and every time you turn around, there's something new that consumers are doing online. A new technology comes on the scene, and we have to figure it out. But we need to experiment. We need to try different things and find out what works. If it doesn't work, no big deal. It shouldn't be perceived as failure. Right up to the very top of organizations, media organizations, ad agencies, and marketing companies, they need to realize that it is all about iteration. We cannot just sit there and talk about these things and say, what if? We have to go out and try it. The neat thing about the internet, of course, is that it is relatively inexpensive to do an experiment. You know, we have to do a full experiment and do it over time, but it doesn't cost us a lot to do that trial and find out if it works. And if it works, how can we make it better? It's kind of like A/B testing for direct response. We can learn a lot from the direct response folks.